We have already been hacked. All of us. The darknet is just another tool, and it's used by government agencies all over the world. This is a heated subject. The media covered it in a highly salacious manner. The headlines screamed about a shadowy internet filled with guns and drugs and hitmen. The further I investigated it, the more I realized it was largely inaccurate. They propagate misinformation about privacy tools, and they demonize those tools and those who use them. They weaken the security of the internet with backdoors to gain access to our information, and they lie to the public about what information they're collecting and for what purpose. So let's start with the basics. What is this hidden internet exactly? Now, the media coverage of the deep web usually describes it as a vast hidden area, 5,000 times larger than the surface web and filled with criminals. But that is actually false. The deep web is not a place, is not hidden, and actually harbors zero criminal activity. It simply accounts for the unindexed content online, the raw data that Google doesn't know about and doesn't care about. For example, your online banking data is not stored anywhere on Google, and your company may have an internal network that you use to communicate. This exists in the deep web. But there is a hidden internet, a tiny little area called the darknet, or dark web. And this small corner of the internet is comprised primarily of information that is actively hidden from public view, and this is the area worth talking about. The darknet, it can only be accessed by specific tools, like Tor, which is a special browser and service that masks your browsing activity and gets you into the darknet. Will you find crime? Yes, but not to the degree that the media has claimed, and crime is neither the primary use of the darknet nor why it was built. Now, the internet was originally funded by the Department of Defense, and as it became publicly facing with the World Wide Web, new technologies were created to ensure its use for defense. So really, the darknet is just another tool, and it's used by government agencies all over the world. There are black markets selling drugs, and many of these primarily sell marijuana. Guns? Yes, guns have been sold on the darknet, though not effectively. Sadly, why would you want to hassle with the darknet when you can buy a semi-automatic rifle anywhere, from Walmart to Instagram? There are dark things on the darknet, though considerably less than is being reported, and law enforcement is all over it. The truth is the darknet is a terrible place to conduct crime. It's difficult to get into the darknet, and it's cumbersome to navigate once you're in. And by nature, digital criminals are amongst the most easily tracked and caught. It's very hard to remain anonymous on the internet, where the slightest mistake can expose your entire history of activity. And the internet never forgets. Why the cyberspin and hysteria in the media? Well, it sells. It makes for, sexy TV shows and movies. It sells magazines. But there is another agenda at work: to demonize the darknet and to scare people away from it. Now, who would want to do that? People in power who believe that the privacy and anonymity that the darknet enables will cause them to lose control. They propagate misinformation about privacy tools, and they demonize those tools and those who use them. They weaken the security of the internet with backdoors to gain access to our information, and they lie to the public about what information they're collecting and for what purpose. And this behavior has radicalized a generation. So this is all very interesting, but what has any of it got to do with you? Well, many of you, I'm sure, have heard of recent hacks, like Ashley Madison, Target, Anthem Blue Cross, and Snapchat. And I'm sure privately, many of you were glad that they didn't happen to you. But here's another unpalatable truth. We have already been hacked. All of us. Our financial information, our medical records, our personal photographs, our browsing activity, our phone calls, our texts. All of this information is already out there in other people's hands. How did it get there? Through pervasive government surveillance and bulk collection, by black hat hackers who are pulling down your online information and the information of your banks, insurance companies, and other institutions. And by your internet service provider, your phone company, and other tech companies who routinely collect your information both with and without your permission, and whose basic functions track your every move, collect your data, and store your speech. I'm not talking about spyware, but common apps like Siri and Google Maps. By the same token, corporations need to be able to conduct business and crunch their data with less access. And black hat hackers have to be met with airtight security tools, not weakened ones. But how on earth do we go about achieving all this? It requires the very thing these people are most afraid of. We need to go dark. We need a hidden internet, just as we need all the tools and services that protect our privacy and anonymity. To go dark means that everyone would be utilizing privacy and anonymity tools at all times. Tools like Tor and virtual private networks that protect your browsing activity just as they protect darknet sites like Silk Road. PGP and encryption services that keep emails private, and fully encrypted phone calls and texts. Now, these services used to be difficult for the average user, but that's changing. The desire for privacy and security in the digital space is becoming big business. You may not realize this, but Apple's iMessages are now encrypted, where it used to be that anyone could access your text messages. And now websites are usually using secure connections by default. And that's just the beginning. As we move further forward into the technological era, and our lives and our world continue to radically change, we have to recognize that both our individual and collective existence depend upon a base level of control over our own privacy. Privacy is not a privilege, and it is not something to be willingly and casually sacrificed. Privacy is fundamental to being a human being, and it's worth fighting for.